Hi and welcome back to another video. This is Jason from Effective Maintenance Dashboards. In this video we will continue on the theme of conditional formatting and conditional formatting specifically around line graphs. So the previous videos I've done in this topic I have I've set up the maximum and the minimum values and a dynamic title on the chart here, and we're going to just add to this and we're going to add in some a narrative. So for these types of visualizations where you've got a set piece, I guess, chart here, it's sometimes useful and can help the user understand the situation if there's an explicit narrative just along the top here at the side, just explaining the key points and the key kind of conclusions that can be drawn from the chart, and then they can look at the chart and they can see the trend for themselves and draw those conclusions and look into it in a bit more detail. So what I'm going to do is to do this I'm going to use a custom visual. So before we download the custom visual, so the idea here, in fact let's insert a text box, is that at the top here I'd like to get a narrative that tells me the work order has increased or decreased by an amount and a percentage. So we want to see this work orders have increased or decreased by a certain amount or by a certain value. I want to show that as a percentage, and I want to then say the work order backlog has increased or decreased by a certain percentage from, and then we'll put the first value to last value. Okay, so that's the narrative I want here. We'll be a bit bigger and we'll format it, but that's the essence of what we want to hear. We want to see when somebody first opens up this particular report, they're going to come in here and they're going to get presented with a summary that is going to explain exactly the key points there, and then they can go and look at the high points and the low points, and they can see the start and the trend, and etc. Right, so how do we do this? Well, let's first of all look at what we have. So in the previous couple of videos we created some measures, and we've got some of the measures we need, and let's just open this up. So the measures we've got so far are, let's minimize these filters, just open up a little bit. So we've got the measures, so the backlog has increased or decreased by a value, so increased and decreased. So we have got, no, we need to get those, we need to calculate that from, and the value we need to calculate. So that's 3 we need to calculate, but we have got the first and the last. So let's type in here first, backlog first value. So we just stick that there for just now, turn it into a card. So we've got the first value and we've got the last value as well. Okay. Turn in a card. So the next thing we need is that's the date of the last value. We could add that in, but let's just go with the last value. So it started off the first and last values, so it's decreased, but we want to make that explicit. We don't want somebody to calculate that. We want to make that explicit. It decreased from 693 to 682, so it's 11. And we also want to explain the percentage, show the percentage too. So we want to put that into percentage terms. We don't want somebody to have to calculate that values. So let's go, and first of all let's go and create some visualizations or some measures. So the first one we're going to create is going to be visual that's going to tell us the backlog change. I'll just wait for that to come up. Here we go. So backlog count change equals, and we're going to create a variable here, and the variable is going to be first backlog value, and that's going to be equal to the first value in range minus last. In fact, actually, we don't even need a variable here, when you can just go straight to the solution. First value in range minus last value in range. Okay, so that's going to be a straightforward calculation here. It's just going to get the difference between the first and the last values in the range. That's our first one. The next one we're going to create is going to be the direction. So we've got to say if this is going to be an up or a down direction. So let's go and create another measure, and I'll explain why that's important in a second. For backlog count change direction equals, and this is going to use a variable because we're going to use the same measure a few times. So first backlog value equals first value in range. Another variable is going to be last backlog value, that's going to be the last value in range, and then we're going to calculate the difference between the two. That would change. We could have probably just used the backlog equals first value minus last backlog value. We could probably just use that measure there actually, but anyway, let's go with it. And the result equals, we're going to use a switch statement, and the switch statement is going to use this true expression. So it's going to choose whichever one of these conditions is the first condition that it finds which is true. So the first one is backlog change if it's greater than 0. So that is if there's been a decrease greater than 0, then it's going to be the value this measure is going to return is decreased. Otherwise, backlog change is less than 0, then it's going to return increased. And otherwise not changed. Is the final one. And then we will click on this, and then we're going to go and return from the variables, and it's going to be the result. Done result. Okay, so we're going to define the first value, the last value. We're going to calculate the difference between the two of them. If it's greater than 0, we're going to return that has decreased. In fact, we'll make these, yep. If it's less than 0, it's going to be an increase. And if it is otherwise, or if it's equal to 0, then we're just going to return not changed. So let's go back here now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a percentage change. So let's go back in here, new measure. Open this up. Backlog. Count. Change. Pt3 equals. Divide. Yeah. We're just going to divide. And it's going to be the, first of all, actually, change, yeah, it's going to be divide the change, backlog change, by first backlog value. Backlog first value. Okay, so we're going to divide the, we're going to go and divide the backlog change by the first value, and that's going to give us a percentage change. Okay, so we've got everything we need, I think, to go and start recording some figures and start building up a narrative. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to import this narrative, and we're going to import the file from the App Store. And we're going to search for story, because it's called the Enlighten story. This one here, Enlightened data story. We'll add that in. So I'm just going to delete this because we know roughly what we need. But actually, just move over to the side for a second. And I'm going to add in one of these. Enlightened data stories. So how does this work? So let's have a quick chat about how this works. So the first thing we need to do is just understand how the setup of this. So if you go here, we've got data values. So these are the values you want to embed within the story. And the order these are entered in is really important, because they're the order which the marker, which we're going to show in a second, is going to substitute in the values for, in the order they're listed here. So if we look at what we want here, work order backlog has increased or decreased. So the thing we want to add in first is change direction. Decreased. Okay, so it's going to show something for a second, but that's fine. The next thing is by a value, and the change is the next. The actual change, backlog change, is the next thing. So it isn't showing it yet, but it will in a second. And then we need a percentage. So the next thing I'm going to put in is a percentage. And then we're going to put in the first and the last values, which are these values here. So we're going to put in first. So backlog count first value, and then we'll put in the last. Backlog count last value. There we go. Okay, so we've started to build this up. Once you've added the values in here, we can go to the formatting tab, and in here we've got a few different options in here. The title we don't need, because it's just basically a list of all the values we've added in. The background we don't need either, and the rest of it we'll just leave as it is. Now these are the two important fields here. So the story, we've got the font color for the story, we'll just leave it as is. We've got the size, and this data section here, there's a replacement token. So whenever we see this hash here, that is going to substitute the values we've added here into the story that we are going to put together here. So that's where you can see that value there decreased, because it's got the first value here. So the best way to do this is actually just to start typing it. So the backlog has now hash decreased by hash 11, and we'll open up this, and then we'll put in here another hash, and that needs to be converted into a proper percentage. We'll do that in a second. From, now put another hash to real hash. Okay, so these values here, as you can see, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the orders. These are the order in which the hash that we put into the story has gone and selected each value here. So it selected this change and put it in here, because we have put after the has and before the by, we have put into our story a hash, and then by, it's going to go for 11. So I think you get the idea. So just now, we will go in here and search for percentage, backlogs change percentage, and we'll go in and we will change that in the formatting to a percentage. And I think just one, yep, one's enough. Right, so a couple other things we're going to do here. We're just going to delete this. I'm going to delete these as well. We don't need these. They were just for a bit of verification. Okay, so you can see here we've got a piece of text here that explains explicitly what the situation is. We'll just do a little bit more formatting here, and we're going to go into the story, and I want the text to be 20. We're going to put it aligned in the center, I think, yeah. I'm happy enough with that. There needs to be a difference between the font color here, really, and the font color here. We want this to stand out. Now the next thing we can do in the data is we can reduce the size here, so it's at 28. So you see it's quite significantly bigger, but I just like to actually keep it the same. You can choose to switch off and on the bold, but I actually think leaving the bold on and making it, well, it's the font color says white, but it's the default, which is black, is good. And for each of these values, you can choose the various different pieces here for each of the display units and decimals. Also, if it returns a blank, you can actually decide what text you want to display instead of the blank value, which is really useful. So that is it, and I think we could go in and tidy up a little bit and add some extra bits and pieces. I'd probably like to highlight this and stick a text box around it, but you get the idea. And I would probably go and change this this axis here, the title, to be slightly subtler colour. Let's just say this one here, just so that this really stands out. I might even make this bigger, but that would be part of the idea here. Okay, so hopefully you've got the idea, and you can see that you start by looking straight in. As soon as you come into this dashboard, you can see this value here. In fact, actually, let's go and just because I think it's important, let's go and add a text box. Let's just add a shape. So what I would do here is I would add a shape and stick a bit of a colour around this. And put the fill, change the line to this colour here. I change the fill to that colour there. At the line I change the edges to 10, make it a bit round. And I switch the fill on. And I would just like to see. What's happened here? I've reset them up. I'll just make that fill with this colour here, and here we go. And then I would send this to the back. Format, send to back. And you can see here, it just highlights the fact that we've got this value here. It just draws attention to it. Here we go. Straight away, you can see in here the backlog. It's a nice summary. The backlog has decreased by 11, which is 0.1%, over from 693 at the start, which is here, to 682. So this stops you having to go and actually work that values out. It's there, it's explicit, it's in your face, and you can see the status of the backlog over the trended period. And it's quite insightful and it's easy to understand. Okay, so another long video. Apologies for that. Hopefully you'll find it useful. Hopefully you'll start to understand some possibilities with the graph rather than just throwing a graph up and letting the person interpret the highest and lowest values and the decrease over time. And this will give you some ideas. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you in another video.